Good evening, I'm Nima and this is Forum Daily for Thursday, June 2nd. We start the cast with the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations as world leaders congratulate the monarch's 70 years on the throne. 4 days of Platinum Jubilee celebrations kicked off this morning in London. French President Emmanuel Macron called Her Majesty the golden thread that binds their two countries. Formal celebrations for the Queen's 7 decades on the throne began with Trooping the Colour, an annual military review marking her official birthday. The celebration will include a service of Thanksgiving tomorrow, a concert at Buckingham Palace on Saturday, and a pageant on Sunday. During the 4-day holiday weekend, neighborhood organizations are expected to hold street parties around the country. The Jubilee is giving people a chance to reflect on the huge changes that have taken place during the Queen's reign. Turning to Ontario now, as voters head to the polls today to elect their next government. The month-long election campaign saw parties battle over the best approaches to affordability, health care, and infrastructure. The Progressive Conservatives have made promises to build Ontario highways and hospitals. The NDP has proposed hiring more nurses and teachers. The Liberal platform includes plans to remove provincial HST on prepared foods under $20, and the Ontario Greens have proposed free mental health coverage and reaching net zero emissions by 2045. Elections Ontario has said that more than 1 million people voted in advance polls last month, and there has also been a sharp rise in mail-in ballot requests. Just next door in Quebec, 52 cases of monkeypox have been confirmed in the province. Last night, health officials tweeted the doubling of confirmed cases from the 25 they reported a week earlier. Meanwhile, Toronto Public Health yesterday confirmed Ontario's 2nd case of monkeypox and is still investigating 6 potential cases. New Brunswick has identified the first suspected case in the Maritimes. The rare disease comes from the same family of viruses that causes smallpox, which the World Health Organization declared eradicated in 1980. On the East Coast, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are paying less at the pumps today. This comes after the government passed a bill this week to cut its gas tax in half. The province's Public Utilities Board says the bill has lowered gas prices by 7 cents a litre, but the board says other factors affecting gas prices mean consumers on the Avalon Peninsula will see a reduction today of only 5 cents per litre. Finance Minister Siobhan Cody says the reduction will be in effect until January 1st. Moving to Alberta now, where the provincial government has approved a bid by the Enoch Cree Nation near Edmonton. It will help work through the surgical backlog that the COVID-19 pandemic has caused. Health Minister Jason Copping says a private clinic will be built by the middle of next year to perform thousands of publicly covered hip and knee surgeries. The clinic will be a partnership between the Enoch Cree and Surgical Centres Incorporated, which is a private operator that runs 7 clinics in Canada, including 2 in Calgary. Google is writing to every member of Parliament and senator expressing fears that a new online news bill is being rushed through Parliament without proper debate. Bill C-18 is designed to support the Canadian news industry and would make online platforms such as Google and Meta compensate media organizations for reusing their journalism. Google warns that the bill needs more scrutiny because of its far-reaching implications, including for the way the search engine ranks content. To the West Coast, British Columbia politicians head to their home ridings today. This comes after a 4-month spring session. It features health and affordability issues and a bill that will lead to a cooling-off period for home buyers in BC's high-pressure real estate environment. The session also saw the legislature return to its pre-COVID-19 operations of face-to-face interactions, which comes after 2 years of virtual news conferences and hybrid sittings. Premier John Horgan was a regular presence in the chamber after undergoing cancer treatment late last year, but he missed some time this spring recovering from COVID. Canada's latest national wildlife area is more than twice the size of Banff National Park. Declared as a national wildlife area on Wednesday, a DESI in the Northwest Territories comprises more than 14,000 square kilometers of forest, lakes, rivers, and uplands. Many bird species that migrate south have breeding grounds there, and it is home to animals, including bears, lynx, caribou, moose, and bison. It has been a protected area since 2018 and is partly managed by local First Nations through Guardian programs. Coming up next, we'll be exploring the Platinum Jubilee celebrations currently underway, marking the Queen's 70 years on the throne. We'll have an interview with Dr. Michael Jackson, president of the Institute for the Study of the Crown in Canada, coming up next. That and, of course, more news from around the world only on Forum Daily, so stay tuned. We'll be right back shortly after a break. Ottawa landmarks will be illuminated in purple this evening to mark the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. This includes the Peace Tower, the Senate, and the Prime Minister's office on Wellington Street. The British High Commission will also be lit up today in purple and throughout the weekend. All of this to celebrate Queen Elizabeth's 70 years on the throne. The 96-year-old Queen appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace with 18 members of the royal family on the first of what will be 4 days of celebrations. Well, joining us now to tell us more about the significance of the monarch's Platinum Jubilee is Dr. Michael Jackson, president of the Institute for the Study of the Crown in Canada. Dr. Jackson, welcome back to Forum Daily.
It's good to be back. Thank you.
So 70 years on the throne. What does this milestone mean for the Queen and the royal family?
It's a remarkable milestone. You think of it, 70 years as our sovereign. The only sovereign to rule over what is now Canada, or part of Canada, was King Louis XIV of France, who reigned 72 years. So if the Queen goes another 2 years, and I bet she will, she'll break that record too.
Well, on that point, I know some have pointed out that the Jubilee is highlighting the interests of Prince Charles, the Queen's eldest son. So what does that mean for the next reign?
For the next reign, I think we're going to see King Charles, if that's the name he chooses for himself, will be a very different monarch. It's going to be a big change from the Queen anyway. The fact that she's the monarch the only monarch that most of us have known. And he's going to be a different person. He'll be much older, of course, when he succeeds to the throne. He's 74 now, and he will feature his own interests. The environment is one of his interests. He was into this long before it became trendy and fashionable, or sustainable development, or organic agriculture, urban planning, architecture, heritage, youth interests, promoting underprivileged youth, interfaith and intercultural relationships. All those things are major themes for what is now the Prince of Wales, and I think we'll see them featured in his reign as king.
And I want to talk about Prince Charles's wife, Camilla. We know the Queen announced back in February that she's going to be what did she call it? A Queen consort. So what exactly is a Queen consort?
Well, a Queen consort is the spouse of the reigning monarch, if the monarch is a male. For instance, King George VI. The Queen's father, his Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, she was Her Majesty and the Queen consort. And the same will be true for Camilla. And this was not expected as a welcome development, I think, because of the second marriage the Prince of Wales had. And there was some controversy about that and hesitation. But I think Camilla has come into her own. She showed that on her recent trip to Canada with Prince Charles. And she's going to be the Queen, along with her husband, the King.
All right, Dr. Jackson, let's jump to Britain. What kind of celebrations can we expect in this extended holiday?
Well, there's big celebrations going on as we speak. The trooping the colour, the big ceremony which happens every year on the Queen's official birthday, which is this weekend in the UK. In Canada, of course, it's Victoria Day. And a pageant and a church service, all kinds of celebrations. But what counts is really the popular celebrations to the people in the street, people in their homes. They're coming out in droves in the UK to celebrate and party. And a jubilee like this is really about partying to celebrate the monarch's 70 years as Queen.
Definitely a milestone to celebrate. Now, over the years, what role has the Queen played in Canadian society in particular?
The Queen's been with us as Canadians at all the major events of our country's history since she became Queen in 1952. There's the centennial of a confederation, for example, in 1967. That was a biggie. She opened the St. Lawrence Seaway along with American President Eisenhower. She was there for the Olympics in Montreal. She was there for the Commonwealth Games at Edmonton. She was there for the signing of the Constitution Act 1982. So all the big events of our country's history, Queen Elizabeth has been there, and she's always said, I'm not a fair weather friend. I'm with you all through what you do as Canadians, and she deeply loves Canada. After all, we're the senior realm after the UK, and it's a place she's been visiting many, many times.
All right, Dr. Jackson, just about 45 seconds left here, but what are you keeping your eyes on during these celebrations?
I want to see how the other members of the royal family will join with the Queen, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, of course, and Camilla, to see how they all come together as a family. It's a team effort, and with the Queen's age, it's even more a team effort now. And I think we're going to see the other members of the royal family stepping up to the plate to help Her Majesty out in her final years.
All right, Dr. Michael Jackson, president of the Institute for the Study of the Crown in Canada. Always great having you on Forum Daily. Thank you again for your time today, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Stay with us. Coming up after the break, we'll be joined by Catherine Murray, the host of The Buck Stops Here, for Forum Daily's Market Update. And you'll want to stay tuned to see how the markets have been faring over the past week. Of course, we'll have more news from around the world after that, so stay tuned. Welcome back. It's now time for Forum Daily's Market Update with Catherine Murray, host of The Buck Stops Here. Take it away, Catherine.
Thanks, Nima. Hello, everyone, and welcome to your weekly market recap. I'm Catherine Murray. Well, we are seeing markets trend higher across the board today, up by about 1% to 2%. Investors, though, are continuing to digest comments from various U.S. Fed Reserve presidents and what that might mean for rate hikes. Recall the markets gained about 6% last week. That's after Atlanta Fed president indicated a potential September pause in interest rates. Well, this week he did walk that back a little bit. And we've also heard from Fed's Brainerd today in an interview on CNBC that it's hard to see the case for a pause in rate hikes in September, but did go on to note that if inflation improves, then maybe it would be a 25 basis point hike versus a 50 basis point hike. Bottom line, the markets are continuing to be headline driven surrounding how aggressive or not the US Federal Reserve will be, with the key concern, of course, that they will tighten or over tighten and cause a recession. So that is what the markets continue to move off of last week as well as this week. This week, it continues to be in favor to the upside in the markets, at least today. We'll see how the week rolls out. Interestingly, of course, we've discussed on my interviews on the Buck Stops here on the News Forum Sunday mornings. You can catch it there. The idea that the economy, in fact, is slowing down enough, and that actually might enable the U.S. Federal Reserve to pause in their rate hikes. Today, we actually got an economic data point indicating slower growth, with the ADP payrolls coming in substantially below expectations. The release, in fact, also noted hiring tempered across all industries. The focus, of course, will be on tomorrow's non-farm payroll in the United States. Consensus is looking for 333,000 job gains and an unemployment rate of 3.5%. We'll watch for that tomorrow morning. Now, in terms of the market today, though, it is definitely a risk-on day in the U.S. and Canadian market. The idea of peak inflation is a tailwind for markets. In other words, perhaps we've seen the worst as it relates to the inflation picture. We also, of course, have oversold conditions in the market and depressed investor sentiment. So taken together, that's one of the key reasons for why we're seeing these markets move higher. Importantly as well, there's also optimism surrounding China reopening from their latest round of lockdowns on the back of increased COVID cases. So again, obviously with the second largest economy in the world, that can have a large impact in terms of the economic growth picture going forward. Away from that, as we look at the markets in the United States, consumer discretionary is leading the gains. So just think casual diners, department stores, hotels, autos, cruise lines, all performing well. So that reopening trade and a better economic outlook is performing very well today. We also, of course, continue to see the commodity complex do very well. We've got steel, aluminum, copper, precious metals and miners, agriculture, and specialty chemicals all performing well. The price of crude, interestingly, is higher despite OPEC Plus announcing higher summer output targets. Perhaps that's because in the past they haven't been able to achieve those targets because they don't have the supply. In terms of stock stories to note, pet food and products company Chewy reported first quarter earnings and revenue beat, setting that stock up by 20% today. Be aware that Microsoft did cut their guidance on FX headwinds. Recall the US dollar has been very, very strong, puts pressure on companies as well as the emerging markets. Meanwhile, as we look at the TSX, it's up by close to 2% in midday trading. trading. All sectors higher. Canadian dollar is higher versus the US dollar. Of course, the big news in Canada this week was the Bank of Canada yesterday raising rates by 50 basis points, taking the benchmark rate to 1.5%. The tone was hawkish, with the BOC saying that they are prepared to act more forcefully to bring down inflation. The press, of course, noting the possibility for 75 basis points hikes in the coming months. Interestingly, though, we are actually seeing a slowdown in building permits, residential permits down by 3.3%. In terms of stock stories, I would just note Descartes Systems reported better than expected quarterly earnings, setting that stock up by 2.5%. And Tourmaline in the energy space declared a quarterly cash dividend increase. Lastly, Nima, I'll leave it on the other stock news of the week, which is Elon Musk, of course, the founder of Tesla, mandating all employees to get back to work or resign. Nima, I'll leave it there. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Catherine. For more news and analysis on the markets, be sure to tune in to Catherine Murray on The Buck Stops Here. All right, stay tuned. Up next, we have more news from around the world, only on Forum Daily, as Russian forces tighten their grip in Ukraine and the country of Turkey decides to change its name. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Russian forces have tightened their grip on the eastern Ukrainian city of Severodonetsk as the war enters its 99th day. Russia now controls about 80% of the city in the strategically important Luhansk region. This comes as the UK says it will join the US and Germany in sending sophisticated medium-range rocket systems to Ukraine. Moscow has denounced that move, saying that it won't improve the situation. Meanwhile, Ukraine's president says if Russia prevails in the war between the two countries, then, quote, the dark times will come for everyone in Europe. Addressing the parliament in Luxembourg on Thursday, Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia currently controls almost a fifth of Ukraine's territory. He says tens of thousands of people have died in the war, which is now in its 99th day. Mr. Zelensky says if Ukraine prevails, Europeans will, in his words, be able to continue enjoying their freedom. In a move to soften the blow of the war's impact on energy prices, the OPEC oil cartel and allied producing countries are boosting production. They will increase production by 648,000 barrels per day in July and August. This offers modest relief for a global economy suffering from soaring energy prices. The decision by the alliance, known as OPEC Plus, steps up its pace in restoring cuts made during the worst of the pandemic recession. The move to increase production faster than planned comes as rising crude prices have pushed gasoline to record highs in the U.S. and Canada. Moving to Turkey now, where the state-run news agency says its foreign minister has sent a letter to the United Nations regarding the country's name. He is formally requesting that his country be referred to as Türkiye, the way the country is spelled and pronounced in Turkish. The move is seen as a part of a push by Ankara to rebrand the country and disassociate its name from the bird turkey and some negative connotations that are associated with it. Anadolu Agency reports that UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric said the name change had become effective from the moment the letter was received on Wednesday night. In Afghanistan, the Taliban rulers have begun a campaign to eradicate poppy cultivation. It is aiming to wipe out the country's massive production of opium and heroin. But the ban will likely strike a heavy blow to millions of impoverished farmers and day laborers who rely on proceeds from the crop to survive. Afghanistan's economy has collapsed and most of the population is struggling to afford food. Another shooting tragedy in the United States. Authorities say a gunman carrying a rifle and handgun killed 4 people at a medical building on a hospital campus in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The police chief says the gunman targeted the doctor who performed his recent back surgery, blaming him for his pain. Police say the victims and the gunman were found dead on the 2nd floor of a medical building where an orthopedic clinic is located. The police chief said the AR-style semi-automatic rifle used had been purchased legally just hours before the shooting. The United Nations Special Envoy for Yemen says that Yemen's warring parties have agreed to renew a nationwide truce for another 2 months. Hans Grunberg commended the two sides in a statement, calling the truce a significant shift in the trajectory of the war. The ceasefire between Yemen's internationally recognized government and the Houthi rebels first came into effect on April 2nd. It has been the first nationwide truce in 6 years in Yemen's conflict. Back in the U.S., the FBI says it was able to stop a major cyber attack before it could be launched. Agency Director Christopher Wray says the feds were able to foil an attack on Boston Children's Hospital. Mr. Wray tells a Boston College cybersecurity conference if it had been carried out, the plot would have been one of the most despicable cyber attacks ever seen. Mr. Wray's comments were part of a speech in which he spoke about cyber threats from Russia, China, and Iran, and the need for alliances between the U.S. government and the private sector. According to new research, electric cars can be made with plastic from old clunkers. Various parts of older cars, such as the bumpers, carpets, seatings, and door casings, can be turned into graphene, the world's lightest metal. It is set to revolutionize the automotive industry. This metal can be used to create sensors for self-driving cars that are only 1 atom thick, and it can increase a vehicle's strength while reducing its weight, improving fuel efficiency, and even creates rust-free paint. Graphene is also set to eventually replace lithium-ion batteries in electric vehicles from Ford. This study is titled Upcycling End-of-Life Vehicle Waste Plastic into Flash Graphene, and it can be found in the Communications Engineering Journal on nature.com. That'll do it for your look at national and international news for today. Take care, Canada. We'll see you next time on Forum Daily News.